Welcome to the West Virginia Legislature on the West Virginia Channel. I'm Beth Voorhees. Here's a live look inside the House of Delegates chamber at the state capitol in Charleston. The House Committee on the Judiciary is holding a public hearing on House Bill 2002 relating to parental notification of abortions performed on unemancipated minors. The lead sponsor is Delegate Kessinger. Other sponsors include FAST, A. Evans, Romine, Fritsch, Arvon, Butler, Rowan, Wilson, Painter, and Lane. And we'll wait here for Judiciary Chairman Delegate John Schott to call this public hearing to order.
Before we get started.
Good morning again. We are here today for a public hearing on House Bill 2002. We have quite a few folks that have signed up this morning, so we're not going to have a great deal of time for any one individual, but we'll try to divide it up as best we can. We have, I should mention to you all, House Bill 2002 went through the Health Committee, Health and Human Resources Committee. The committee did what's called a strike and insert, which essentially rewrote the bill. So if you haven't seen the strike and insert, it is in some respects significantly different than the original bill. Certainly would be helpful to our committee members if you can distinguish between the two, if you have concerns about one but not the other, or if you have concerns about both. Please keep in mind that these public hearings are streamed audio, so the hundreds of millions of listeners worldwide will hear what you say, so please keep your comments in an appropriate fashion. We ask that you keep those in a way that it doesn't reflect negatively on any person. You certainly are free to address the bill itself. We ask that you be courteous in your presentations. Also, no displays of approval or disapproval, such as applause or boos, are permitted. We will be calling folks. We have a disproportionate amount of people that signed up against the bill as opposed to those in favor, so we'll try to rotate those as quickly as we can. We'll probably allow about not quite a minute and a half. We have over 40 people that have signed up and only an hour to do this, so I'd ask that you restrain yourself from going over the time. You'll notice on the podium here there's a red light. When that comes on, that's your signal to wrap up your comments as quickly as possible. If you don't, I'll call you down once, and then the snipers that we have posted in the gallery will take care of the rest of that. I'm going to call the first person to speak, followed by the second person. If you're the second person called, please move up here as close to the podium as you can so that you're close by and we can move along, as opposed to being back in the far corner and taking 30 seconds to get up here. So if you would, we have a few seats over here in the corner. You can even take a seat at the table up here or at the front row, but just try to get close. If you haven't printed your name legibly, I do not take responsibility for how bad I butcher the pronunciation of it. All right, let's get started. We do ask one other thing. If you're able to stay throughout the public hearing after you speak, it may be that some of the committee members may have some personal questions for you. So if you can stick around, please do so. The first speaker is going to be Barbara Rathburn, and she will be followed by Sierra Pennington. Ms. Rathburn.
Good morning. I have to apologize first. I think I may have signed the wrong petitions or the wrong list. This is my first time doing this, so I may be on the wrong list, but you'll figure that out, I'm sure.
We'll figure it out and get you on the right list. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you very much for allowing me to be here and have this opportunity to voice my opinion and my concerns about House Bill 2002. At first glance, House Bill 2002 sounds like a good idea. What could be wrong with a bill that requires parental notification if your minor child is having a medical procedure, right? I mean, I have 3 daughters. They're in their 30s, and I still want to know if they're having a medical procedure. But this bill is not about my daughters. This bill is about taking away the safeguards that were put into place for girls in the state of West Virginia that grew up the way I did. My mother was very mentally unstable. She still is, okay? I had a much older half-brother who suffered brain damage as a child from a very high fever, and he sexually abused me for a very large portion of my life. If I had become pregnant by my own brother, my mentally unstable mother would never have believed me over him. She would never have allowed me to have aborted that child, and she would have forced me to have had my brother's child. Now, if you are opposed to this bill, I know you understand me. When you have been sexually abused, nothing becomes more important to you than taking over ownership of your own body. And for these young girls, if they have lived the way I did, that is vitally important to them. You need to understand not all of us grow up like the Brady Bunch. We don't all grow up in a loving, stable environment. Sometimes the parents are not capable of making decisions in the best interest of their own children. And sometimes we have our childhoods taken away way too soon. But my grandpa had a saying, and he would say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This is not a broken system. The system we have in place in West Virginia is working. There were only 4 girls in West Virginia last year that got an exception to this parental notification bill. 4 in the entire state. And they did so by going to their doctors, the doctors who probably knew their parents, and telling those doctors.
Please wrap up your comments.
Telling those doctors their situation. My doctor knew my mother was mentally unstable, and he would have believed me when I told him what my brother had done to me. Okay, so I am begging you, please do not take this protection away from the girls that need it the most. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rathburn. Sierra Pennington, followed by Elisa Clements.
Good morning. My name's Sierra Pennington. I am 23 years old and sexually assaulted. And me and my mom had a very open relationship. And it scares me to think that this bill would make it harder for young women who are raped and abused to go and get care that they need. I can't imagine having been in that position. I'm glad that I wasn't. And I want to stay in West Virginia, but bills like this scare me to think about my future children. And even if we had an open and loving relationship, I know how hard it is to come and speak against something, tell your parents something like that. So I would urge the committee to vote no on HB 202. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pennington. Elisa Clements, followed by Wanda Franz.
Good morning. My name is Elisa Clements. I'm the Director of Public Affairs for Planned Parenthood South Atlantic, and I'm here to speak in opposition of House Bill 2002. As a leading reproductive and sexual health care provider in West Virginia, Planned Parenthood recognizes the very central role parents play in the overall education of their children, including their children's sexual activity. Planned Parenthood is committed to supporting parents in this critical role and encouraging healthy communication between parents and children. However, laws like this don't force teens to talk to their parents, and that can be very detrimental to the health and safety of young women. What's more is the sad truth is that some teens live in very dangerous homes, and it can be difficult or even unsafe for them to talk to their parents about their sexuality or potential pregnancy. We all want our daughters to be safe, but these laws come between young women and the health care that they need. Studies have shown that prevention and strong, caring families, not laws that endanger our daughters, are the best methods to address teen pregnancy in our state.
Thank you, Ms. Clements. Wanda Franz, followed by Emily Thompson. Emily Thompson.
Good morning, I'm Wanda Franz. I'm a PhD in developmental psychology and Professor Emerita of the West Virginia University, having served 30 years teaching developmental psychology. This particular bill contains two waivers at this point. It contains a waiver that allows girls who are abused and damaged by abortion to be able to go before a judge and have the judge adjudicate what is necessary for them to protect them from the sexual abuse that we are hearing about. And I have to say that what the bill says is that the second waiver allows a second physician to inform, determine that the girl is mature enough to have the abortion without having to inform her parents. And as a developmental psychologist, I can say that there is no developmental psychologist that would say that it was possible to determine if a girl was mature enough, mature for her age, without doing a huge battery of tests and evaluations on that girl. And these provisions do not exist in the law. They are not available in this particular waiver, and we are asking that the doctor waiver be removed from this bill, and I urge you to do that, to remove the doctor waiver and pass the original bill, SB 2002. And I have some written testimony I'd like to introduce that contains research indicating that young adolescents do not have the capability of making decisions about their own health care. They do require the input from their parents, from their family, who know them best and who can do the best for those children.
Thank you, Ms. Franz. And anyone else who has written materials they would like for committee to consider, please lodge them with the clerk up here. Emily Thompson, who will be followed by Sally Wilson. And please, once again, if you are the person on deck, so to speak, please move up closer so it doesn't take up any time to move to the podium. You can sit in the front table here or the front row of the chairs there. Ms. Thompson, please proceed.
Good morning. My name is Emily Thompson, and I'm here to speak against HB 2002, as it would create real harm for minors in West Virginia. There is no evidence that forcing minors to disclose their plan to terminate an unwanted pregnancy fosters healthy communication in a family where communication is fundamentally broken. To the contrary, in unhealthy family situations, sudden forced disclosures related to pregnancy and abortion can damage rather than foster family unity. Some minors are so afraid of telling their parents that they are pregnant that they undergo dangerous attempts to self-induce without medical supervision. Sometimes young women decline to involve their parents because they are cared for primarily by adults besides their parents, such as a grandmother, aunt, or adult sibling. The parental notification law can delay some minors and deter them from seeking care or cause them to travel out of state. This delay can expose minors to medical risk, and some minors will be prevented altogether from having an abortion. For some of the minors who resort to the bypass process, that process itself will be difficult and even traumatic. The law can also subject minors to other harms, such as unnecessary stress and expenses related to delay, reduced medical options, and in some cases, physical or emotional abuse or forced pregnancy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Sally Roberts Wilson, followed by Heidi Richardson Evans.
Hello, my name is Sally Roberts Wilson. I'm your constituent and a lifelong West Virginian. As President Ronald Reagan used to say, well, here we go again. Spending increases and more regulatory burdens. At a time when the state is facing unprecedented crisis in the budget, we have before us a bill that will certainly increase spending on lawyers, court fees, and other associated administrative costs, given that most people under 18 are unlikely to be independently wealthy or able to afford the costs out of pocket. And if they are, will more likely use that money to travel out of state where the regulatory burdens are not so onerous. How these costs to the taxpayers are to be funded is not clearly spelled out. Additionally, the idea that the plaintiff will be able to maintain patient privacy in a state with communities as small and close-knit as ours is ludicrous. We have here a bill which again places undue burdens and regulatory requirements on physicians, and because of the poorly written and deliberately ambiguous language in the definition of abortion, places them at greater risk of a malpractice suit or loss of license. This in a state which has always faced difficulty in recruiting and retaining physicians in the first place. Finally, one could only wish that those who continually attack our constitutional rights would view women's bodies the same way they view our gun cabinets and leave the government out of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Vote no
Wilson.
on HB.
Heidi Richardson Evans, followed by Valerie Woody.
Good morning. My name is Heidi Richardson Evans, and I'm here speaking today because I have several years firsthand experience working in women's reproductive health. I have insight into abortion and met women of all ages who came into the clinic for abortion. The younger women and teens touched me the most. These people were choosing to enroll in college or to finish high school, and their pregnancies would have made it difficult or impossible to pursue those goals. I met many women and girls like this, and my guess was that about 95% of minors brought their mothers or fathers with them for support and to give consent to the procedure. I've read now that my estimate was close. It's currently 92% of girls whose parent accompanies them. But what I need to share are the rare stories, like the time I couldn't sleep at night after talking to a 15-year-old girl and her friend's mother who talked with me as we set up her appointment, because the girl's father had raped and impregnated her. The patient's mother was complicit in the abuse, and it was not safe to disclose her abortion to either parent. Her friend's mom took her to a doctor who spoke at length about her situation and documented for us that the girl was mature enough to understand the decision she was making. When I imagine that child not in a quiet and private room with a trained medical professional, but in a courtroom, it breaks my heart. The intimidation this girl felt was palpable. I could hear it in her voice. And in her case, because of her abusive family, she had terrible associations with the court system itself and was much more at ease with the physician. I'm a mother now, and my daughter will be a teen very soon. We have great communication, and as we've seen, the majority of families in the state are like this. But we have to protect that 8% who do not. I urge you to keep the law as it exists now. The people who know best in this situation are the trained professionals, the wonderful counselors at clinics, and the private physicians who've taken an oath to put their patients' safety first. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Valerie Woody, followed by Patty Cooper.
Thank you to the members of the committee. What we're here talking about today are basic values. Do we believe in bodily autonomy? Or do we believe in unnecessary government intrusions into private medical decisions? Courts and doctors must always first consider the best interests of the minor child. Let's not place additional and unnecessary hoops to jump through for no benefit and duplicate checks already in place. Trusted medical professionals are given power over lives every day. We must trust them to make responsible decisions when faced with issues of consent. If we do not, we put these young women that we've heard from today through additional trauma that is unnecessary and causes further harm medically and psychologically. I urge the committee to vote no on HB 2002.
Thank you, Ms. Woody. Patty Cooper, followed by Julie Archer.
I was left in a basket on a doorstep in Wheeling, West Virginia in 1955. The first young man in Roane County to be drafted in World War II, got engaged to a young woman 1 week before he left. 39 months later, after the war was over, he married that young woman. They waited 10 years for me to be born, and I'm the lucky little girl that got to have the best parents in the whole world. If abortion had been legal, I wouldn't be here today. Very good chance. The purpose of the Parents' Right to Know bill is to close the loopholes that allows abortionists to avoid informing parents when their immature minor daughters try to contract for abortions behind the backs of the parents. Underage girls may not be able to inform their parents about their request for an abortion because they are victims of sexual abuse at home. The doctor waiver does not require that the second doctor meet with the girl or even talk to her. The pamphlet sent out by the West Virginia Department of Health at the time the law went into the effect gives nearly half of its information to explaining the process and steps involved in taking advantage of the judicial waiver. Under the section, waiver by another doctor, there are no procedures at all. Only West Virginia and the only Planned Parenthood in West Virginia, in Parkersburg, proved that doctors don't meet with the girls requesting the waiver. The caller claimed to be 13. She was impregnated by her 22-year-old boyfriend and couldn't tell her parents. The receptionist assured her over the phone that she would not have to tell her parents, and that she was then referred to one of them operating abortion facilities in Charleston. The doctor waiver is a sham and does nothing to protect the girls. They didn't even ask the name of the 22-year-old, which is against the law. All medical professionals are supposed to ask that when suspicion of an underage girl. HB 2002 actually protects abused girls because their option for a waiver to go before a judge who can intervene and help them. HB 2002 protects families from the loss of parental rights and protects minor girls from being taken for secret abortions by sexual predators. If you had that underage girl, would you want her to go for an abortion without you knowing about it? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Julie Archer, followed by Jacqueline Jacovidis, I guess.
Good morning. My name is Julie Archer, and I'm here today as a concerned citizen to ask you to trust our doctors and let them help vulnerable young women who need confidential abortion care. Our state has had a parental involvement law in place since 1984, and the physician waiver provision is an important safeguard that protects a small minority of young women who can't involve their parents because they come from abusive, unstable homes or because their pregnancies are the result of incest. Ideally, a teen would involve their parents in this type of decision, but to ignore the fact that there are those who can't isn't acknowledging reality. And so I would just ask that you protect young women and reject this dangerous bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Archer. Jacqueline Jacovidis, you better help me with that one, okay? And she's going to be followed by Ann Sweeney. Ann Sweeney.
It's Jacovitis. That's okay, though.
Jacovitis.
Most people don't. I'm Jacqueline Jacovitis. I'm very nervous to be up here because I am actually an extreme abuse survivor. And while I never actually had to get an abortion, there was a good possibility that I could have been one of those girls. My mother allowed my father to begin molesting me at 18 months old, and it only stopped at 6 years old because he died. She would sleep in the living room so at night he could bring me and my older sister in there to have his way with us. He would force her to sleep with us and do things sexually with us too. He forced me and my brother to do things sexually. Again, the only reason why that stopped was because he died. My mother made multiple bad relationship choices. When I was 16 going on 17, she began having a relationship with a gentleman called Junior Dotson, Howard Junior Dotson. He is now in jail for 89 counts of child molestation and up to 700 years. He impregnated his stepchildren, and they had children with him. And I can tell you right now, if I had to have involved my parents, who did not have my best interest at heart, and they would have made me carry a child, I would have killed myself. I am currently on disability for complex PTSD because of my mental health issues. I would not have wanted to live my life if somebody had forced me, and my mother would not probably have approved of it because this man enjoyed the control he had over those children and getting them impregnated and having relationships with 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old daughters, stepdaughters of his. So please say no to this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Ann Sweeney, followed by Olivia Sweeney.
Good morning. My name is Ann Sweeney, and I oppose the House Bill 2002 because I believe in bodily autonomy of women, even teenagers. This bill would make it even more difficult for teenagers to exercise that bodily autonomy. I also want to say that I'm a mom of girls, and while I feel like we have good relationships and they would talk to me if there's an issue like this, I also want to know that if they can't talk to me, it's a doctor they're talking to, somebody who's educated and who is able to help them in a way that I may not be able to. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sweeney. Olivia Sweeney, followed by Susie Bragg.
My name is Olivia Sweeney, and I'm 13 years old. I oppose of this bill because I think that girls my age should be able to make their decisions with someone who is medically trained than a judge. Because just think about it. Would you rather talk in front of somebody who is a judge or a doctor who's trained in this profession to help you than a judge who has no experience with it? as you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sweeney. Susie Bragg, followed by Andolyn Williams.
Hi, my name is Susie Bragg, and my heart goes out to the ones that have been up here and shared about abuse in their teenage years. But I'm a voice of regret because some I have heard didn't get pregnant from their sexual abusers. I did at age 16 by a gentleman that worked for my parents. We talk about the trust that we have with doctors. They don't tell you about the regret you have after that abortion. It solves the problem at the time. The regret that when I wrote for my hospital records, where I had the saline abortion at 18 plus weeks, and I was told that the baby was like that of liver, I regret trusting the doctors. Because 2 months later, this is the actual, it is March 3rd, 1975, I looked down and this is how I found out the truth. And the regret overflowed. Oh yeah, my mother was abusive because when she asked me what was wrong, I told her they lied and I told her about this. And she said, well, that's what you get for getting, and I'm not even gonna repeat what she said to me. She never understood I was raped and she believed him, not me. I understand abuse beyond. But also, regret is when you receive a death certificate, not just from the hospital, but for the state of Pennsylvania for my baby dying. She was burned from saline solution. Regret that with my second abortion, the gentleman that impregnated me, we had dated for 5 years. I thought no problem having it. I had that second one, no numbing, because I felt I needed punished. He took his life a year later, the same month that I had that abortion, because he saw a difference in me. You talk about these girls, yes, I understand, but where are you years later when the reality of what they've done, or they have a baby, like my 3 children that try to come too soon, one 6.5 weeks early. When there's a botched up abortion, where are you then? We remember the faces. That doctor's only there to do one thing, the abortion. Where are the faces? Where are you when you realize and you put a scar on your wrist because you can't deal with that? When the parents get the call, your daughter's in the hospital, there's been a botched up abortion. And don't think it doesn't happen in West Virginia, because it does. I am a voice of regret that has walked through it.
Please wrap up your comments, Ms. Bragg.
So I would ask that you would take and understand that I support this bill because I am the voice of regret.
Thank you, Ms. Bragg. Andolyn Williams, followed by Celia Barajas.
Hi, my name is Andolyn Williams, and I'm a private citizen. However, I did want to read to you a statement that I have from the West Virginia State Medical Association. It says the following: given the diverse moral, ethical, and religious background of our members, the West Virginia State Medical Association does not impose or endorse the issue of abortion. That being said, we are a physician advocacy organization that protects our physicians and their patients in the interest of providing the highest quality of care. We oppose HB 2002 because we oppose any additional regulations on physicians that could disrupt the care of a patient and interrupt the physician-patient relationship. Also, we oppose the criminalization of physicians through threat of fines, penalties, or incarceration as they are performing the standard of care. We also oppose the addition of regulations imposed on physicians in an already highly regulated system of healthcare delivered in our state. We remain opposed to the committee substitute that came out of health, and then there's contact information here as well. I will submit this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Sheila Barajas, followed by Nicole Green.
I'll be reading a statement in opposition to this bill on behalf of the West Virginia Coalition Against Domestic Violence.
Girls are told throughout their adolescence that their bodies are not their own. Movies, television shows, commercials, etc. over-sexualize and objectify girls' body, while at the same time our culture is obsessed with purity, virginity, and slut-shaming. Our culture tells girls to not have sex, but does not tell them how to prevent pregnancies. So when they wind up unintentionally pregnant, it is somehow shocking and shameful, a mark on their character, and they must then deal with the consequences. We need to support the rights of people of all ages to make an informed decision about whether they want to carry a pregnancy to term or not. Whether someone wants to have children or not should be completely up to the person carrying that pregnancy, as well as anyone else they want to involve. Ideally, a young woman would have the support of her family, as well as her community, in whatever choice she makes. However, a girl might have anti-choice parents, and although she isn't ready to have a child, her parents will not grant her the consent needed to have an abortion, even if she has been abused and may even be pregnant as a result of this abuse. Instead of setting up more barriers for young people to access reproductive health services, we need to work on making information about safer sex, birth control, and abortion readily available to them. Please reject Bill 2002 for the bad policy that it is. I would like to submit this.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Ms. Barajas. Nicole Green, followed by Rosalie E-U-L-E, it appears. I'm not sure I can read that. Hopefully you know who you are. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Nicole Green. I'm constituent from District 38. But today I would like to read an op-ed from the Charleston Gazette Mail this past week by Dr. Coy Flowers, an OBGYN serving the state of West Virginia. He's also the vice chairman of the West Virginia section of the American Congress of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Unfortunately, we do not live in an ideal world. Our stark reality is that a small minority of young women cannot involve their parents because they come from physically violent or emotionally abusive, unstable homes, or because their pregnancies are the result of incest. The fact is that West Virginia has had a parental involvement statute since 1984. As the code stands now, a minor must inform a parent or guardian at least 24 hours before undergoing an abortion. When legislators passed this legislation, they were wise in what they included two critically important safeguards, a physician waiver and a judicial waiver, the latter which is constitutionally required. The extremists leading the campaign to change our current law are using an emotionally explosive issue to advance a very narrow agenda. Don't be fooled. West Virginia has one of the highest parental involvement rates in the country. Nationally, 60% of teens involve their parents. Here in West Virginia, over 90% do so. Recent data from the West Virginia Vital Statistics Office shows only 4 young women could not inform their parents. What we're already doing in West Virginia is working and is a model for other states. Healthy family communication cannot be instituted by government where it does not already exist. Therefore, the main concern of our elected officials in this state should be keeping young women safe. Minors do not vote, and they have virtually no political power. So without hesitation, I urge our West Virginia legislators to swiftly defeat HB 2002 to preserve and protect West Virginia young women's health and safety. I'd like to submit this for the record as well.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Rosalie Ewell, not close. Please introduce yourself then so we have the correct name.
I'm sorry you couldn't read my handwriting.
Excuse me a minute. She'll be followed by Rhonda Fout. Now go ahead.
My name is Rosalie Earl, and I'm a resident of Charleston. And I'm here basically just to add one more voice in opposition to House Bill 2002. Simply, as members of the committee, I ask you to look back to your teenage years and try to remember your relationship with your parents. If you were lucky, as I was, you had loving parents who would support you if you found yourself with an unwanted pregnancy. But please, please remember the young who have parents who don't know the best interest of their children and may, if they are forced to reveal their situation to their parents, may experience physical or emotional abuse or both. Please reject House Bill 2002.
Thank you, Ms. Earl. Rhonda Fout, followed by Gary Zuckett.
Good morning. My name is Rhonda Fout. I'm a wife and mother of 3 teenagers, 2 boys and a girl, and I'm a 4th grade teacher from Morgantown, West Virginia. The reason I have come before you this morning is to ask you to please support HB 2002, Parents' Right to Know Act. I was shocked to find out there was a way my teenage daughter could get an abortion without my knowledge or consent. I have a feeling there's many parents that are unaware of this loopholes out there that allows our teenage daughters to make this huge life-altering decision on their own. I ask you today, how could this be? My 16-year-old daughter is not allowed to even have an ibuprofen at school without my consent. And as a teacher, I'm not allowed to give my students a cough drop or antibiotic cream without parents' written consent. So I'm confused. How could this be that my daughter or anyone else's daughter under the age of 18 is not mature enough to take an ibuprofen, but is old enough and mature enough to have an abortion? Even if you put aside the fact that abortion stops the heartbeat of an innocent baby, having an abortion is a major medical procedure. In fact, I can't think of another procedure my daughter can have without my permission. That's why I would like you, urge you to support HB 2002, Parents' Right to Know bill.
Thank you, Ms. Fout. Gary Zuckett, followed by Caitlin Hayes Gaffin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Gary Zuckett. I'm Executive Director of West Virginia Citizen Action. And I think I'm here to oppose House Bill 2002 under the rubric that if it ain't broke, don't break it. We've heard a lot of heartfelt testimony on both sides of this issue. I think what it comes down to, I think, is protecting the young woman involved, the very, very few young women who may be in a position where they can't notify their parents of this medical procedure. We've heard some really heartfelt testimony on that also. So, what are we looking at here? When the father or another family member is possibly the father of a or has impregnated a family member, how can this young woman go to the family for permission on this? This is something that works. It's been working. It's working fine. Let's keep it the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zuckett. Caitlin Hayes Gaffin. Once again, please, when your name is called as the follow-up speaker, please move forward to the front so we have more people than we have time to speak, I'm afraid. Please go ahead.
Sure. My name is Caitlin Hayes Gaffin, and I would first like to reiterate that we are not here to discuss whether or not parental notification law should be in place. Again, West Virginia already has extremely strong parental involvement statute in place, and it, along with the important safeguards which the legislature enacted when it passed the first parental notification statute, because they recognize the importance of protecting teens' health and lives, it is working. As the West Virginia law states now, a minor must inform her parent or guardian 24 hours before the procedure. And the fact is, the majority of teens do involve their parents. Nationally, that number is 61%. In West Virginia, it is 92%. What we have right now is working. I would like to read now a statement from this year from the American Academy of Pediatrics. The American Academy of Pediatrics reaffirms its position that the rights of adolescents to confidential care when considering abortion should be protected. Adolescents should be encouraged to involve their parents and other trusted adults in decisions regarding pregnancy termination and must do so voluntarily. Legislation mandating parental involvement does not achieve the intended benefit of promoting family communication, and it increases the risk of harm to the adolescent by delaying access to the appropriate medical care. The American Medical Association, the Society for Adolescent Health and Medicine, the American Public Health Association, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, the AAP, and other health professional organizations have reached a consensus that a minor should not be compelled
or required to involve her parents in her decision to obtain an abortion, although she should be encouraged to discuss the pregnancy with her parents and/or other responsible adults. These conclusions result from objective analysis of current data, which indicate that legislation mandating parental involvement does not achieve the intended benefit. And I'd like to make 2 points here, one about the adolescent competency to make healthcare decisions, and this again is from the statement of the American Academy of Pediatrics. The American Medical Association noted that there is a remarkable degree of consensus that adolescents should have access to confidential health services and that parental involvement, consent, or notification should not be a barrier to care. Existing research shows that most minors 14 to 17 years of age are as competent as adults to provide consent to
Please
abortion,
wrap up your comments.
are
You're
able
way
to
over.
understand the risks and benefits of the options, and are able to make voluntary, rational, and independent decisions. And for those who have maybe mentioned that they can't think of other procedures minors can have without parental consent, I would like to bring up that girls can bring a pregnancy to term without parental consent. Girls can also give up, in some cases, in some states, they can give up their child for adoption without parental consent. It makes no sense, and it seems entirely inconsistent to presume that the minor is not legally competent to make decisions regarding pregnancy termination.
Ms. Gaffin, your time is up. Thank you. George Nealon, followed by Margaret Chapman Pomponio.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I would like to address two items that haven't been touched on so far. One is the distorted petition that proponents have or will be presenting, and second, that West Virginia recognizes the mature minor doctrine. Regarding the petition, it's so distorted that I might have signed it because it implies that no parents are notified, whereas in fact only a few, in 2015, only 4 were not notified. Second, it indicates that the doctor performing the abortion gives the waiver, where it's clear that the current code states that the waiver can only be from a physician that has no contact with the child's provider. And then it indicates that there is sexual abuse is being covered up, and that this change will somehow address that. Whereas in fact, that's nothing about that in the proposal. And as you all know, sexual abuse and the duty to disclose is in the criminal code. As regards, there are a number of things in the code where the right of privacy of the minor relative to the parent is recognized, including birth control, sexually transmitted diseases, prenatal care. And it is recognized in the state that the mature minor doctrine is recognized, which refers to the presumption that those 16 and 17 have the ability to make decisions for themselves. So I urge you to leave the code as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nealon. Margaret Chapman Pomponio, followed by Nancy Schrader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. I am Margaret Chapman Pomponio, Executive Director of West Virginia Free, representing more than 10,000 of our supporters around the state. We oppose House Bill 2002. I want to be clear that all of the organizations that were opposed to 2002 remain opposed to the committee substitute that came out of health. You've heard about them today. We all of us in this chamber, want healthy family communication. We want what's best for our children. I know as a parent, I hope that my children will talk to me when they're faced with difficult decisions, and I want to be there to support and guide them. But here's the thing. I'm blessed in that my husband and I are able to provide a stable, loving home. Not all kids are as fortunate as you've heard. And it is the role of government to look out for the least fortunate among us, to provide a safety net for those who need it. The fact is, West Virginia has had a highly functional law since 1984, and you've heard only 4 young women actually needed a physician waiver in 2015. People need to understand that in 1984, this legislative body took a compassionate approach, even though a restrictive one. And then, you may not know, back in 2006, when this body considered this very legislation yet again, many of you did meet Karen and Bill Bell from Indiana, a couple who lost their daughter, Becky, to a back alley abortion because she was too scared to tell her parents that she was pregnant and needed an abortion. Look up Becky Bell on Wikipedia. Karen and Bill came to this body and spoke to you all. They had considered themselves pro-life until their daughter wound up dead from sepsis from a back alley abortion. After meeting the Bells, this body decided that the safeguard of the physician waiver needed to remain in place. And yet here we are again. Haven't doctors faced enough legislative attacks already? Haven't there been enough restrictions on abortion? The hours this body has spent. Let's be realistic. Let's not get so emotional that it clouds reason. To take away a caring physician as someone that a young woman in crisis could turn to is unthinkable. Let me be frank. Young women should not be pawns in a political game. It's dangerous and it hurts our daughters.
Please wrap up your comments.
Thank you, sir. So on behalf of the board and the staff and the 10,000 supporters of West Virginia Free and of our daughters, I urge you, please reject this unnecessary legislation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Nancy Schrader, followed by Sarah Brown.
Good afternoon. I'm Nancy Strader. I'm here in support of House Bill 2002, and I'm here to read a written statement from James Holhouse, a board-certified OBGYN from the northern part of our state. I'll read as much as the time allows and then give it over for record. Dear legislators, parental rights have been recognized since the founding of our republic, but are routinely dismissed while they collide with the right to an abortion. Parents should have the right to teach and reinforce moral choices to their minor children. I believe the proper compromise was settled by the legislature when it imposed a judicial bypass provision. The amendment contained a requirement that any law would indicate a standard judicial bypass provision. Such bypass provisions allow courts to forego parental notification for any number of reasons, including rape, incest, risk to the child, or where notification was not in the best interest of the child. It was not that the pro-life advocated wanted, well, that's as far as we got.
Thank you, Ms. Schrader. Sarah Brown, followed by Julie Warden.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Brown. I am an attorney, and for the past 7 years, I have provided legal representation to minors seeking to have an abortion without notifying their parent. The current law provides a judicial bypass to the notification requirement as well as a medical bypass. House Bill 2002 eliminates the ability of medical providers to provide a bypass without involving the court. In my experience representing minors seeking judicial bypass, some judges are competent to make the statutory determination to waive the notification, while other judges are unable to make that determination. The law requires that in order to waive the parental notification requirement, the young woman either be sufficiently mature and well-informed, or that the required notification is not in the minor's best interest. Making that determination necessitates discussing whether the minor is well informed about the abortion procedure, including that she understands the procedure. Some judges are simply not qualified or comfortable asking young women those sorts of questions. On the other hand, medical providers routinely discuss a variety of medical procedures with their patients in order to determine that the patient understands the procedure. Doctors are also accustomed to discussing intimate and personal situations with their patients, and they do so in confidential and trusted settings. It is essential that we maintain a robust medical bypass option for these few vulnerable young women, as these medical professionals are best suited to determine if it's appropriate to waive the parental notification requirement. Therefore, I urge rejection of House Bill 2002.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Julie Warden, followed by Barbara Steele.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. And thank you to the many individuals who have shared their stories today. My name is Julie Warden, and I am opposed to HB 2002. I am here today as the mother of a 2-year-old daughter. I know the type of home which she will be raised, a safe, stable home with loving parents and strong family communication. I do, however, understand that not every child is blessed with that type of family situation, and to think that we would take away safeguards, not loopholes, really frightens me, because this is putting our young women in danger. 92% of West Virginia teens involve their parents when faced with an unplanned pregnancy. Passing laws to further restrict the parental notification laws we already have in place abandon a handful of girls who cannot tell their parents due to physical violence, emotional abuse, incest, or rape. I hope our lawmakers listen today to the many opposed to this harmful legislation. Keep our daughters safe, keep our women safe, and trust our doctors. Please focus on our budget deficit and opportunities for West Virginians, not on bills that take away care from our most vulnerable. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Warden. Barbara Steele, followed by Sue Julian.
I think it was my handwriting. My name is Barbara Steinke, and I'm here to urge you to oppose House Bill 2002. We can all agree that in a perfect world, there would not be unplanned pregnancies. In a perfect world, all families would be loving, supportive, and stable. In a perfect world, physical and sexual abuse would not be occurring, especially within the family home. But we do not live in a perfect world. West Virginia currently has a strong parental notification statute, and even in our imperfect world, the great majority of teens in West Virginia notify their parents if they are facing an unwanted pregnancy. Those young women who cannot inform their parents without facing severe consequences are few in number. Only 4 minors in 2015 felt it would be unsafe for them to tell their parents about an unwanted pregnancy for reasons we can only imagine. This bill would put at risk the very, very small number of teenagers who have serious problems in their family life. This is a bill that is not needed in West Virginia. We do not live in a perfect world. I urge you to vote no on House Bill 2002.
Thanks, Ms. Steinke. Sue Julian, followed by Dana Leach.
Hi, my name is Sue Julian. I speak in opposition to House Bill 2002. For over 30 years, I worked to assist women and children fleeing homes where violence, abuse, and terrorism was a regular occurrence, where fear, uncertainty, aggression, and erratic behavior prevailed, where rules changed in unpredictable ways and family members moved about in constant vigilance. In the best of all worlds, parents would respond to the crisis of teenage pregnancies with care and compassion. But we all know that in many families, this is not the case. We know that for some, disclosure would result in humiliation and abuse, perhaps being disowned or shut out, or forced against one's will to carry to term without emotional, physical, financial, or spiritual support. I am here today asking that legislators prevail for the safety, health, well-being, and future of young women who are pregnant and in desperate need of options that value and honor the particular circumstances in life in which they find themselves and to which they must respond. To take away the option of seeking a judicial or physician waiver assumes that all families are loving and avoids the stark reality that life is hard, cruel, and dangerous for many of us. I urge you to stand in support of maintaining options for young women and oppose House Bill 2002.
Thank you, Ms. Jillian. Dana Leach, followed by Joseph Cohen. And to those of you who signed up to speak, we are out of time, but we're going to extend the hearing a little longer. We'll give each of you a minute. There's about 11 people left. We'll give you a minute, but please stay within that time frame. Go ahead, Ms. Leach.
Good morning. I'm Dana Leach. I'm with the Mon County chapter of West Virginians for Life and the mother of 6 children. Before I start, I wanted to say, obviously, there are many women suffering here on both sides of this debate, and I want you to know my heart breaks for you, and I will pray for your peace. The personal experiences of Dawn Ravenel, Rachel Eli, Miyoshi Callahan, and Teresa Wilbelsman Fangman are a testament to the very real tragedy that a decision made without the benefit of parental involvement can become for a teenager who is confronted with the frightening and stressful fact of an unexpected pregnancy. Their experiences illustrate all too well some of the physical, emotional, and psychological dangers to the adolescent who makes the abortion decision without any parental involvement. Dawn Ravenel, a 13-year-old girl from Queens, New York, died tragically in 1985 after undergoing a legal abortion. According to the abortion clinic records, Dawn awoke from the anesthesia during the middle of the abortion and began gagging and choking before going into cardiac arrest. A plastic airway was inserted in her throat and she was again sedated. In the recovery room after the abortion, she awoke, began gagging on the unremoved airway, and went into cardiac collapse. She was rushed to a New York hospital where she later died. In 1990, a jury awarded $1.225 million to her family. The Ravenels said they pursued the suit not for the money, but for justice. I wanted to be sure that another child would not suffer the way Dawn did, Mrs. Ravenel said. New York has no parental involvement laws, so Dawn's parents were never told about their daughter's pregnancy or abortion. It was a horrible situation, said the family attorney. Here you have a frightened kid in what was really an abortion factory. She was treated like a piece on an assembly line. Rachel Eli was a 17-year-old unmarried high school student who was afraid to tell her parents that she was pregnant. Rachel had an abortion on the advice of a high school counselor without her parents' knowledge. Several days after the abortion, Rachel became quite ill and went to another doctor. Thinking the symptoms were not related, she did not tell the doctor about the abortion. Rachel was left permanently paraplegic, forced to use a wheelchair, from a condition that they later found was directly attributable to a post-abortion surgical infection.
Ms. Leach, please wrap up your comments.
Thank you, and I urge you to vote for House Bill 2002.
Thank you, Ms. Leach. Joseph Cohen, followed by Amanda Swartz.
My name is Joseph Cohen. I'm the Executive Director of the ACLU of West Virginia. I stand here today to urge the delegates to vote against HB 2002 because it would place an undue burden on young women's ability to safely exercise their constitutionally guaranteed right to obtain an abortion. People have already spoken today about the human toll of families that are not as supportive and loving as we hope all of our children's families are, so I'm not going to get into that. But I would say that the U.S. Supreme Court requires a bypass procedure to obtaining an abortion without parental involvement. However, judicial bypasses, such as those contemplated by both versions of HB 2002, can actually add trauma, time, and confusion to the process, dissuading young women from seeking appropriate care. For young people, seeking a court order can be incredibly intimidating, it can seem overwhelming, and at times impossible. Requiring these decisions to go to a court violates teens' privacy, particularly in rural areas. We all know that in many parts of West Virginia, it seems as if everybody knows one another. Regardless of any procedural safeguards that can be put in place, requiring a young woman to come forward in a judicial forum over this most personal decision could be absolutely traumatizing. The ACLU of West Virginia urges this legislature to protect the privacy of young women, protect their dignity, and protect their access to safe reproductive medical care. We urge you to oppose HB 2002. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Amanda Schwartz, followed by Gina Hayes.
Good morning. I'm Amanda Schwartz, and I'm speaking in opposition of House Bill 2002, and I'll be reading a statement by Maggie McCabe. Please excuse my absence this morning. I am educating young people about health care so that they may have a career in the medical field. As a woman who had an abortion at the age of 16, I stand with others here today opposed to House Bill 2002. A woman's decision regarding her health care and the proper procedures to follow for said health care are solely between her and her physician. An abortion is an FDA-approved surgical procedure that is never entered into lightly. A woman searches her heart for the decision that is right for her in consultation with her experienced physician. This bill is an unnecessary hindrance for women in healthcare. I would prefer to have the experience of our elected officials be focused on realistic business for all of WV. I would like to see a well-thought-out budget that includes educated versus personal budgetary concerns. Please do not waste your time on a needless and harmful bill. In all sincerity and for the betterment of women in WV, Maggie McCabe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schwartz. Gina Hayes, followed by Paul Dalzell.
Hi. As a social worker with experience working with adolescents as a case manager with Child Protective Services in West Virginia, I urge you all to vote no on HB 2002. I'd like a quick statement from the National Association of Social Workers. The ability of adolescents to engage confidential, contraceptive, abortion, and prenatal services without parental consent is critical to the overall health of not only the adolescent, but also the pregnancy, and if she chooses to maintain the pregnancy, the baby. I once had a 15-year-old client I'll refer to as Emily. She was a victim of sexual assault by a much older adult male. At 15, Emily suddenly found herself in foster care and pregnant as a result of her traumatic sexual assault. So she's 15, still a minor, not emancipated, and she's pregnant as a result of a rape. If she doesn't wish to continue her pregnancy, what are her options? She has no parents to notify or to give consent, yet as an unemancipated minor, she's not able to make the decision for an abortion herself. In an ideal world, adolescents would be able to speak freely and openly with their parents about sex and pregnancy. However, in reality, many teens come from homes involving incest, physical violence, emotional abuse, instability, and other horrific situations you can't even begin to imagine. So Emily was eventually able to receive a judicial waiver, but even that experience was difficult. She had the help of CPS, a guardian ad litem, and a prosecuting attorney, yet the system was still difficult to navigate. With a pregnancy, time is obviously crucial, and even the judicial waiver, as important an option as it is not exactly the most efficient route. Making sure that adolescents have access to safe and confidential abortion care in West Virginia is absolutely critical. Don't undo the progress we've made thus far. Please vote no on HB 2002.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Paul Dalzell, followed by Father Brian O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Paul Dalzell. I'm a West Virginian. I have 3 daughters and 2 granddaughters. 2 of my daughters left the state so they could find work. The one with her 2 daughters, with my 2 granddaughters, still lives in town, in the state. Her husband works in D.C. When I was in my 20s, I worked at the Conrad Motel in Glenville, and we had a couple of housekeepers. One of them had a 12-year-old daughter who became pregnant. Turns out it was her father that did it. One of the others was 30 years old and became a grandmother at 30 years old. I asked her about did you think about having your daughter have this taken care of? She said, my husband's mean, he wouldn't let me. Now I want you to think about the last time you were in the doctor's office. How many people were there when you were in that office? Probably just you and the doctor. And think about the last time you were in a court. How many people were there? There was the recorder, there was the bailiff, there was the judge, probably a couple lawyers. Can you imagine asking permission to get any operation yourself while you were in that courthouse? If you needed a hemorrhoid operation, can you think of the difference between asking about it when you're a doctor?
Please wrap up your remarks.
Yes, sir. And especially as a teenage girl, between getting that when you're a doctor and getting that when you are a lawyer or when you're in a courthouse. Which would be harder? Which would be impossible when you're a girl? Thank you. Vote against 2002, please.
Thank you, Mr. Dozell. Father Brian O'Donnell, followed by Rita Ray.
I'm Brian O'Donnell. I'm the director of the Catholic Conference of West Virginia, representing the diocese. And the diocese, of course, is quite interested in families, family relationships, and so forth. We do have a pretty strong parental notification bill with the judicial waiver, quite common in the United States. This medical waiver involving doctors is not common in the United States. And as you've heard in previous testimony, it might be problematic. There could be some games played here. We're really interested in having young women protected against abusive families. Perhaps they're victims of incest. We think the judicial waiver, as in most states, will certainly do that. We urge support of House Bill 2002.
Thank you. Rita Ray, followed by Marquita Hutchins.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Rita Ray, and I'm here as a concerned citizen urging you to vote against House Bill 2002. As has been pointed out, we already have a strong parental notification law that has worked well since 1984. It makes no sense to venture into the unknown to create a system that will not improve health care nor improve dysfunctional families. House Bill 2002 will only cause further harm to the victims. The current system is one that physicians, the courts, and the majority of the public support. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. Marquita Hutchins, followed by Carrie Megan Quick Blanco.
My name is Marquita Hutchins, rector of St. John's Episcopal Church here in Charleston, West Virginia. Sex with a child is immoral. Anyone who commits this crime, whether related as a family member, friend, or outside the family, it is immoral. It creates shame in the child, and it makes it very difficult for the child already. Last night I attended a human trafficking presentation by Andrew Kogar, who is Assistant U.S. Attorney in the Northern District. He said that in West Virginia, 73% of all human trafficking is related to sex, and very often that goes down to children as early as 11 and 12 years old. Don't make this more difficult for those children. Let them find help where they can find help. I urge you to reject House Bill 2002. I urge you to give all your attention and care and compassion toward the child. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie Megan Quick Blanco, followed by Eli Baumwell.
My name is Carrie Megan Quick Blanco. I'm from Huntington, and I'm reading this statement on behalf of another woman. I do not regret having an abortion. I may think of it often, but I made that difficult choice. The father was abusive. Having a child with an abuser will only make it that much more difficult to change from victim to survivor. I'm glad I did not have a child born to only be abused by their sick father. I am now happily a mother. If my parents had been involved, perhaps I would have made a different decision. But in the end, it was my choice alone, as it should be. An abortion, many say, is a lifelong decision. Having a baby is as well. No one likes to make that decision, but it's still and should be each woman's choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Eli Baumel, followed by Jamie Crofts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, delegates, friends. Good morning. My name is Eli Baumwell. I'm Policy Director for the ACLU of West Virginia. I'll try to keep my statements brief in respect to the committee's time. This is bad policy. House Bill 2002 is bad policy. It will not protect teens. It will not increase family involvement. And it will not even reduce abortions. As it's been noted several times this morning, there were only 4 waivers granted in 2015. So this really isn't about doing anything substantive. What I do want to bring up is this does bring up other issues for this legislature. Whole Woman's Health versus Panapinto makes it clear that the right to privacy guaranteed under the West Virginia Constitution exceeds the right to privacy under the federal Constitution. Parental notification laws, as they currently exist in West Virginia, to my knowledge, have not ever been tested under that heightened level of privacy. Now, what this bill does is takes away one of those rights to potential privacy and makes this bill even more constitutionally suspect. Now, I can't pretend to know what a court would do if this challenge ever came forward, but I would ask this legislature, in a time when we're facing a significant budgetary crisis, is passing a law that's bad policy and constitutionally suspect really that's priority? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Jamie Crofts, followed by Karen Cross.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jamie Lynn Crofts, and I'm the legal director for the ACLU of West Virginia, here to oppose HB 2002. Here in West Virginia, 1 in every 6 women will be a victim of sexual assault in her lifetime. Also in West Virginia, a rapist who fathers a child can get parental rights, forever tying women to the men who raped them. In the United States, 1 in every 4 girls will be sexually abused before she turns 18. And of children who are raped, 46% are raped by family members. And this is even with the vast underreporting of crimes like rape and incest. Last year, an 11-year-old girl in Paraguay gave birth. She got pregnant after her stepfather repeatedly raped her. Her mother petitioned the court to try to get an abortion for her daughter, and the court denied that request. Is that what we want West Virginia to become? Importantly, the committee substitute for this bill would likely still require young women seeking abortions to testify in court, which would be an incredibly traumatic experience. If laws like this are really about protecting life, I would urge anyone supporting this bill to think of the lives of young women like Becky Bell, and also the women who the representative from West Virginians for Life mentioned, who died because they got illegal abortions to avoid parental notification laws. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crofts. Karen Cross.
Your Honor, members of the committee, I'm here to support House Bill 2002, and I represent 125,000 pro-life supporters across West Virginia. National Right to Life refers to our current law as an abortionist consent law. House Bill 2002 does not require consent. It only requires that one parent be notified. There's a judicial bypass for those girls who are in abusive situations. And if a little girl is being sexually abused, are we protecting her by giving her a secret abortion and sending her back into that abuse? We need to protect our minor daughters. Somewhere in West Virginia, there is a scared, pregnant teenager who's contemplating abortion, and like Susie, doesn't understand the lifelong complications and ramifications of that decision. 30 states have similar laws, most of which have been in effect for decades. Parents' right to know laws have been upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court. I urge you to pass House Bill 2002, a common sense law, remove the abortionist consent provision so we can truly protect our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cross. And that concludes the presentations of those who signed up to speak. To those folks, the Judiciary Committee has that bill on its agenda for this afternoon. We will be presenting that bill and considering it sometime after 1 o'clock. We thank each of you for your input, and to the members of the committee, we will convene at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Thank you. The hearing is adjourned.
You've been watching the West Virginia Legislature on the West Virginia Channel, a public hearing on House Bill 2002 relating to parental notification of abortions performed on an unemancipated minor. Audio of the Judiciary Committee meetings in the House is available on the legislature's website. We'll be back at 11 o'clock with floor sessions from the House and Senate. Until then, I'm Beth Voorhees for the West Virginia Channel, a service of West Virginia Public Broadcasting.